and welcome. India is in transition, both politically and economically. To understand what are some of the concerns and opportunities perhaps on the economic side, and particularly from an India Inc. point of view, I'm joined by Subodh Bhargav, Chairman of Tata Communications. Mr. Bhargav, thank you very much for speaking to us. So, you sit on many boards, you're aware of what's going on. Tell us, what are the kind of issues that companies in specific and general are grappling with and looking out for as we transition today?
Can I start from the macro level?
Sure, absolutely.
I think the first and foremost issue is the political will for good governance, which also means a fine balance between populism and growth. Over the last few years, I think both the issues have been in a bit of a backseat, which has resulted in what I would call a sort of media blitz about what has not happened, what has happened, and the reasons there too. For example, today there is not so much of the policy paralysis. To my mind, there is a signature paralysis. The babus, the bureaucrats are not willing to put their signature. With the CAG and CBI and post-retirement after 20 years investigations, which bureaucrat would like to put his signatures, especially when he has lack of trust between him, the bureaucracy and the political leadership. This has then resulted in some of the issues which are at the ground level, whether it is the land allocation, land acquisition, in terms of the populist mechanism which has been created, making life very difficult for industry. And I am not against the landowner getting fair returns, and fair returns can be a significant share of the profits to be earned. Now, don't say that, look, corporates flush their accounts and therefore profits can't be the linkage. Now, what are the auditors for? I don't understand. So, there are solutions which are practical without being unfair to the other stakeholders. Similarly, look at mining leases. There is a captive mining lease, there is a commercial mining lease, and the clarity and how to move ahead on the natural resources being put back into circulation and productive use in the economy is being held back. So this entire journey has to be put into the reverse gear. We have to remove the fear amongst the bureaucrats. We have to find a balance between the populism and the growth. You know, ultimately it's only 15 paisa out of rupee 100 which goes to the beneficiary. We need to improve our efficiency. Nobody is against reaching out to the poor and underprivileged, but not at the...
So these are some of the macro issues. Now let's look at the company.
Well, as I said, the issues are getting permissions, whether it is in terms of the environmental clearances. Issues are to get land acquisition. And I know companies, and I am associated with some of them, where these are current live issues where the projects and investments have not moved ahead. And it's always a catch-22 sort of scenario. Somebody says you put X amount of investment on the ground, and then only we will consider your request for giving you this clearance. So you put the money on the ground, then that fellow says something else, then it moves to another court. That court has another story. So I think the processes of enabling industry to bring in investment on the ground at the micro level are actually very, very cumbersome.
So which ties in with the ease of doing business conundrum, which we...
Absolutely.
So that's one. What are the other kind of issues that an incoming government should urgently address?
Well, if you're looking at it, that why the last government has failed, to my mind, is the huge perception, right or wrong, I'm not sitting on judgment, about the scams. Now, we need to understand the root cause of corruption. And unless we are able to tackle that, this will continue.
It's greed.
It's both need and greed. You see, greed has to be tackled only by the legal judicial system. Unfortunately, if the court cases keep pending for 30 years, it pays to be a criminal in India. Because by the time the judgment will come, you would have been in another world. The need is there also. Please remember that. You may not find the need today disturbing one in terms of bureaucrats or employees, etc. But what about politics and democracy of this country? We have found provision and solution for every need in this country, from poverty to whatever else. Animals, fauna, water. But political activity, we have turned a Nelson's eye, both in terms of providing. We have fictitious figures, we have unaccounted scenario, and unless there is a clear-cut provision for political funding, and I'm going political, not electoral.
Sure.
Electoral is part of that. And a system which has to be transparent, which has to be equitable, and it's not difficult. CII last year had produced a report on electoral reforms which focused on funding, which focused on decriminalization of politics. We had made specific suggestions, and I'm really encouraged to see.
So ease of doing business on ground, decriminalize politics, but in a far more concrete way, and not necessarily because it's tied to an election.
That's right.
So these are two things.
Yes, and as I said, you need the law enforcement and judicial process to be made world class. We need prompt, deterrent punishment, prompt, honorable acquittal. And unless that happens as the third leg of the reforms. You see, the good governance doesn't come out of the political leadership only. Each institution has a role to play, including regulatory. Look at CAG. To my mind, why the political leadership has not questioned CAG's role in commenting on policy. If you want to make a policy, contest the election and make the policy. But as an auditor, you are required to first say, are there systems and procedures which exist? If no, comment on them, ask them to be complemented or put in place. If there's a violation of the procedures, say so. And third is the suggestions for any improvement. But what CAG has done is totally negated its basic responsibility and gone all over to do great damage to the decision-making process in this country.
Okay, right. So you've given us a macro sense. You talked about the coal and mines, freeing up resources. You've given us a sense on the company side. So what's the one reason you're optimistic about things in India?
I'm always optimistic. Firstly, I think, and now I don't have a political meaning or support or anything, but I think the last 2-3 years, the movements, what known as Anna Hazare or subsequently Aam Aadmi, have revived hope, especially amongst the youth of this country. We had all become cynics. We were frustrated. We had given up by saying the system can't be changed. And I think suddenly a lot of people think system can be changed. And that's the one silver lining, and more than that, to me, as being optimist. And actually the changes in the governance and some behaviors of or methodologies of leaders, both bureaucratic and political, are already changing in the small bits and pieces. But as the elections throw up the advantage or benefits of such openness, transparency, I'm sure it will take on as a fire to spread out, and every state government and central government will have to sort this out. One other macro level issue is the state and center, sort of a conflict all the time on resources, on laws, and what you get cleared at the state gets stuck at center, what you get cleared at center gets stuck in the state.
Which goes back to clearances for
resources. We need a harmonization. What I mean is there's nothing wrong in it. You see, every single window is an additional window in our system.
Mr. Bhargav, thank you very much for speaking with us.